Okay, here we go. Raw review. Normally I do this on Tuesday, but yesterday was, man, we had a big snowstorm coming in, and I had to take care of a bunch of stuff around the house and everything like that. So I really couldn't do one yesterday. Here I am today. We're ready to talk about Raw. It was a big Raw. Like, there was something weird about this Raw. Everything about it kind of harkened back to a different era. I don't know. I had a couple of friends that watch wrestling that were posting during, like, watching it live, that this feels like an Attitude Era revival of some kind. And I got to be honest with you, it had a different feel to me too. So there's definitely something to that. This could be one of the first episodes that is really maybe kind of highlighting a different direction that they're trying to go in. I say one of the first, and now I almost feel like I'm being a little bit, I don't know, I feel like I'm not giving them credit for some of the other things they've done. Raw has been better over the last, I don't know, month or so, month and a half. Maybe the last 6 episodes of Raw, you could say, were better than the 6 that came before them. So I think we're on a good uptick with stuff on Raw. Let's get into it, though, like what actually happened. The first big thing, Roman is back, and I couldn't be happier for him. I was really saddened by the news that he was fighting leukemia again. You just hate to hear that kind of stuff. And it really, when he was coming back, I didn't expect him to kind of be back. I wasn't expecting him to say, guess what, I'm in remission. That wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting, hey, I'm doing really good. The doctors think I'm going to pull through. The doctors think I'm going to be all right. But I was not expecting, hey, guys, guess what? I'm in remission already. Like, that was the last thing that I was expecting. So, and he has a cool little spot with Seth. It was a little bit odd not to see Dean out there with them, but at the same time, I think maybe from a storyline perspective, we don't really know what to think about Dean Ambrose right now. So that could have a lot to do with why he wasn't involved with that spot with them kind of celebrating, Roman being back, right? So that was a pretty long segment. It didn't feel overly long because it was so nice and so joyous and everything like that. It didn't feel overly long, but that was a pretty long segment of Raw. The next thing that happens, kind of like really of note, I guess, we get Aleister Black and Ricochet in another tag match, this time versus the Revival. The Revival attacked Ricochet before the entrance, which forced Black to pretty much fight alone. At least that's kind of how I'm remembering it. So maybe Ricochet was involved, but not as heavily. Certainly not as heavily in the actual match as Aleister Black was. Black looked awesome, and he came away with a pin. But I gotta wonder if this makes the Revival look a little bit weak, though. I mean, they're the tag team champs, right? Like, so should they be looking? They've lost a lot recently. Let's just say that. Like, I don't even want to say that them losing to Aleister and Ricochet is bad, because they're a good pairing. Like, the two of them individually are, I think, just as good of wrestlers as anybody on the main roster within reason. So I don't really feel like it's bad that they won. It just kind of makes the Revival look a little bit weak to be losing this much in general while being tag team champions. I wonder how long that's really going to last. There's still been rumors that these guys are on their way out of the company. Like, that still keeps coming up, that both of them are on their way out of the company. So that could be why they're being weakened a little bit. They gave them the titles because they're on their way out of the company, so they make for a decent transitional champion. and now we're seeing kind of a tour of what other things the Raw tag team division has to offer. But right now, the best looking thing, other than, Chad and Bobby, is probably Black and Ricochet. And I don't know if they're really, Raw wrestlers at this point. And I also don't really know that they're much of a tag team. Like, they look good as a tag team. It's just, I've never seen them build any kind of consistency as a tag team. That may be what we're in the midst of right now. Kind of makes me wonder. Anyway, the next thing that happens of note, we get Rhonda and Natty versus Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan. And during this match, about maybe 2 minutes into it, we get really intense "We Want Becky" chants from the crowd. And eventually, spoiler, but they're eventually going to get what they want, just not quite yet. Ruby, in the meantime, has a couple spots that look really awkward for her, and it's unusual for her. She's usually a better wrestler than this. A couple really awkward Scooby-Doo running spots where she kind of like, I'm running at you, but it's this very deliberate, not at all believable movement. I don't know how else to describe it. There was more than one. One of them, I believe, was involving either Natty or Rhonda in the corner. I think it was Natty. And that was the most egregious one. But there was a couple really bad spots for Ruby in this match. There were a couple spots, though, where Rhonda looks like a damn superhero. She had like a flying Superman punch outside of the ring and a flying knee strike in the ring, either of which would make for great shots on like a trading card or a poster or something like that. I mean, these are really, really cool looking spots. And that is right where Becky interrupts the match. She causes a DQ when she hits Natty with her crutch, and kind of has an awesome little crutch battle with Rhonda. And eventually the security and the police come and they're involved. And Becky gets arrested, and as she's being led away from the ring, she keeps yelling out, "Arrest them! They robbed me! Arrest them! They robbed me!" And that was very Attitude Era looking spot. After that little segment ends, we go to a commercial. We come back from commercial. Becky is no longer ringside. She's been led away. Rhonda comes back out to the ring after helping Natty away from the ring. And she says that she wants to speak to Vince McMahon. I want to talk to Vince. Vince, get out here. Instead, Stephanie comes out, and Rhonda demands from Stephanie eventually. They kind of talk a little bit about reinstating Becky. And eventually, Rhonda demands that Becky be reinstated. And Stephanie says a line that's a little bit curious. Stephanie says this line that you and Becky, my dad was right. You and Becky are essentially cut from the same cloth and both think you're bigger than the WWE. And no one is bigger than the WWE. You don't make demands. I'm your boss. So this is curious only because it's very, very obvious that the kind of connection that Becky has with the fans right now is something that it's a connection that, quite frankly, the creative and the front office and the executives at WWE wish that we felt to Rhonda. She is who they wish we felt this about. And they're trying their best with all of this stuff to link the two together within our minds by laying these little, force feeding it to us basically that they're the same when they're not. The connection that Becky has will never be the connection that Rhonda has. Rhonda could organically forge her own connection with the fans that is incredibly strong and maybe even stronger than the one Becky has, but it won't be the one that Becky has. It won't be the same. And I think that they're making a mistake by trying to make them the same. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, as the old saying goes. They're trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice, and in the same way, right? Can't do that. Maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle twice, but you're gonna have to use a slightly different method for getting it, right? Like, so yeah, it was a little bit curious. The segment ends with Rhonda leaving the women's championship in the middle of the ring and walking away, and we don't know. There's no other closure regarding this event throughout the episode. We just don't know. I mean, obviously, it's all worked. You know what I mean? Obviously, this is the story that they're trying to tell, but it's compelling. I rip creative and the story and the writers and stuff a lot. I have a lot of harsh criticisms for them. And I kind of have harsh criticisms for this Becky is suspended, Becky is injured storyline to begin with. I have criticisms for that. And the way that they're handling it being good does not negate that I think it was a bad idea to begin with. But at the very least, I think that they're handling this poor, kind of washed up, old hat idea in a way that is at least entertaining as it can be. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings about that. The next major segment, Finn Balor is on a moment of bliss, and he uses a bit of reverse psychology on Lio Rush. Eventually, Lio comes out and interrupts a silly, stupid thing on Moment of Bliss that I'm not going to give a whole lot of attention to. Lio comes out and interrupts, and Finn Balor kind of uses a little bit of reverse psychology to deepen the rift between Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley, saying, you're coming out here and saying that I don't deserve to be champion, and maybe you do because you think you're better than Bobby Lashley. But he uses this, which, Lio goes, that's not what I'm saying. That's not, whoa, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're not better than Bobby Lashley. But in the end, what ends up happening is Finn Balor and Lio Rush wind up in a match for the Intercontinental Championship. A match that does not disappoint, by the way. It's really a lot of what you'd expect from these two particular dudes. A lot of high flying stuff. There was a spot that Lio had where Balor kind of rolled out of the ring, and Lio Rush hit him with consecutive suicide dives that actually pinned Finn into the barricade. The first of which was particularly rough looking. And I don't mean rough from like it was a mistake. I just mean like it looked really real and was sold really well. And when Lio and Finn collided, they collided very violently with the upper chest and shoulders area. And it just looked kind of brutal. So kudos to them for that little spot right there. And the way the match ended was also very satisfactory. Finn Balor got Lio Rush, who's a smaller man, and quite frankly, one of the few dudes that Finn can even do this move on that he encounters regularly in WWE. He got the 1916, which is kind of a brain buster with, say inverted, but I don't think that means the vertical. It gets him really, really vertical and gets him in a brain buster. That's what the 1916 looks like. So he hits Lio with the 1916. It looks really good. He climbs up to the top rope and kind of feigns a bit of a left ankle injury, I believe, and kind of hits the coup de grace with both feet off of one foot off the top rope. And that was sold really well, as though, man, is he even going to be able to hit this move? Like I was wondering if they were going to write it so that he couldn't quite get it off, and then maybe Lio was going to get some shenanigans in, or I didn't know what was going to happen. But he got the coup de grace and ended the match and retained the Intercontinental Championship just like he should have, and just like we maybe expected at the beginning of this segment. That absolutely deepened the rift between Lashley and Lio Rush. They have a little backstage segment where Lashley and Rush are talking, and Lashley's getting really rough with Rush and makes him come out to the ring for Lashley's match with Braun Strowman. The Bobby Lashley-Braun Strowman match went just about how you would guess. I don't even really want to give it too much lip service. Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose is the next match. Earlier, and I guess I forgot to mention this, earlier in the night, Elias came out to sing a song about how wonderful Atlanta is and was interrupted by Dean Ambrose coming out and saying that he wanted Drew McIntyre in a no disqualifications match. And in the process of that, he started asking Elias, do you know various songs? So one of them was an AC/DC song. He asked him if he knew any Temple of the Dog, which, if you're a music dude, is kind of cool. Temple of the Dog was a super group back in the 90s with members of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, and was kind of made in tribute to the vocalist of Mother Love Bone, Andy Wood, I think was his last. I think Wood was his last name. Andy was definitely his first name. And he died in the late 80s. Yeah, it would have been late 80s. He died, and the members of the band that would eventually be Pearl Jam were in Mother Love Bone. And he was a really luminary figure in the Seattle music scene. And Chris Cornell started this group to kind of in tribute to Andy. And the more famous song is a song called Hunger Strike, which features vocals from the late great Chris Cornell and also Eddie Vedder. So I mean, that was a cool little, hey, do you know any Temple of the Dog? I mean, that was kind of cool. I don't know why Atlanta. It seems like something they would do over on the West Coast, maybe, but you are where you are. And eventually he gets to, do you know Dirty Deeds? If he asked him, do you know Thunderstruck? Maybe he asked him about another AC/DC song. He said, well, what about Dirty Deeds? And then he goes to the ring, he hits him with the Dirty Deeds. So during his match, Dean Ambrose match with Drew McIntyre later in the show, Elias eventually shows up with a guitar, smashes it on Dean, and then we get Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley showing up. So we have this pairing of three heels that has done some good stuff and has done some boring stuff. Drew McIntyre is definitely the most entertaining and compelling of the group, and I think Baron Corbin is probably the least compelling at this point. Either way, they all are out there beating on Dean really good. And eventually, when you were watching, if you didn't know, if you were watching live and you didn't have any kind of spoilers to worry about or anything, you're getting the feeling already that here comes here comes Seth and Roman, right? And that's exactly what happens. Seth and Roman, they come out and they kind of save Dean's ass. And Roman has a couple of really nice super punches and a spear that he looked really personally jacked up to deliver. He looked very happy to be out there doing what I would think clearly loves to do. Wrestling is not an easy lifestyle. I don't think there's very many people who do it who don't kind of love it. So it was really good to see Roman back doing what he loves to do, and not only see him to come back and be able to tell us all he doesn't have cancer, or that his cancer is in remission, and to not only that, but then to come out and have a really triumphant spot physically in the night later as well. This was really cool. So the one thing that was kind of strange about it, though, Seth and Roman come out, save Dean, but they leave Dean just zonked in the middle of the ring. Like, they come in, they bust up Bobby and Baron and Drew, and they give it to them really good, and they clear the ring of all the bad guys. But they just leave Dean sitting there. They don't scoop him up and help him out or nothing. And then there's a spot where Seth and Roman are kind of already up toward the Titantron, and they're looking back at the ring, and then you get Dean Ambrose just sitting in there you're making Dean Ambrose faces. You guys know what I'm talking about. And yeah, I mean, that's how that ended. I don't know what else to think about it, other than maybe because Dean is leaving soon, or maybe because he's been kind of marketed as a heel. I'm not sure. He has been a heel lately. Like, and he is leaving soon, apparently. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. It would have been, I think, kind of nice to have a little mini, even if it was just brief, Shield reunion there. And maybe they think, oh, we've done that enough recently. There's been a lot of Shield reunions recently, and they've gone one way or the other. And so maybe they just didn't want to do that again. And that's all it was. I'm still a little dubious that Dean Ambrose is leaving. I don't know about you guys, but the release of a bunch of guys got released last week, and WWE didn't make any kind of preemptive statements about it. They just released them and then told us about it once they were already no longer with the company. With Dean, what we're getting is a very early statement about how he's leaving in April, and we hope he comes back, and we wish him well. And they didn't wish nobody else well. They didn't say they wished anybody else would come back. So the stuff would, I mean, case by case basis, Dean is a bigger star than any of these other guys that have gone recently. It's a bigger star here than Hideo Itami. He's a bigger star than TJP. He's a bigger star than Ty Dillinger. So maybe that's why, and that's it. There's nothing else about it to speculate about. It's just because he's the bigger star, and they really do legitimately hope he comes back. But a part of me feels like it might be a work. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. So the last segment on Raw, and I'm going to wrap this up. The last segment on Raw is Ric Flair's 70th birthday party. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is here. Sting is here, and Sting looks cool as ever. He doesn't have his makeup on, but he still looks cool. He's got a Bruce Springsteen soul patch thing going on that somehow he still looks cool, right? So the Stinger still looks cool as ever. And we're getting all geared up. Triple H is out there. We're getting real geared up. Shawn Michaels, where's Ric Flair? I'll tell you where Ric Flair is. He's in the back. He's getting beat up by Drax the Destroyer. Ah! Batista's back. Batista's back. Batista versus Triple H at WrestleMania. It's happening. It's going to be awesome. I thought we were going to get Dean Ambrose versus friggin' Triple H at WrestleMania because of the comment about having to go up, talk to your father-in-law and ask for permission. I thought that was a setup. They were going to start quarreling over the next couple of months. Nope. What's happening? Batista versus Triple H at WrestleMania. I know it's two guys that you can watch wrestle apart and together on the network all you want with past pay-per-views, but this is now and it's happening, and I'm actually really excited about it. Can you tell I'm pumped? So yeah, Drax is evil now, but that's good for all of us.